Welcome, everyone. We are streaming to you live from Productive Environment Podcast. Welcome to today's episode. I am Andrea Anderson.
And I'm Barbara Hemphill.
And we're excited to share with you today our guest, Campbell Rapin. And she is a business mentor and consultant. And she's going to talk to us today about business growth, how business growth can be elegantly simple. And I absolutely love that title, Christine. That is what we are all about. Yeah. So before you go into what you have to share and teach us, which I'm personally excited to learn as well, tell everybody a little where you are and why you're bundled up. And we're in 80-degree weather here in North Carolina, Barbara and I, and a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, thank you for having me. So I am super excited to be here. I really have a disruptive opinion that business can be elegantly simple, not effortless, but elegantly simple. And I have worked all over the world, worked with companies from startups to the biggest companies on the planet to create revenue, to create the ripples of change. And I never set out to mentor, which is what I do. I mentor clients to create a client growth engine. I set out to be a great entrepreneur, and people kept saying to me, what do you do 1 hour a day that creates the results it does? And can I buy you a cup of coffee or a glass of wine, depending on who they knew me and how they knew me. And I started to realize that there was a real lack of awareness because complexity is what people are selling you on. And so we always take a very different approach, and we actually help build foundations. And I come to you today from the north, which is actually white out, blizzard right now. Welcome to spring. I live just outside the Rocky Mountains and just outside of Calgary in Canada. And yesterday was beautiful and balmy, and I was like walking around the neighborhood. And today I started with short sleeves and went, wow, it's cold in my office because it's snowing. And so we're back trying to figure out, when does golf season start?
Wow, we thought we had crazy weather. Oh, I love it. So tell us, because especially in our industry, productivity, organization, and you're right, people do overcomplicate things. And I think, Barbara, you nailed it years ago when you came up with our tagline: accomplish your work and enjoy your life. I mean, that really simplifies why it is we do what we do. And so I think your title and what you teach, Christine, really resonates with us and with our audience for sure, that we need simple. And I love elegantly simple. What do you mean by elegantly simple?
Well, truthfully, there are only 5 things that every business on the planet does. Okay. And without the first 3 in place, 4 and 5 become this beautiful thing that's like a mirage in the distance. And a lot of people don't hear that. And I say, these are the 5. I'll tell you what they are. You have to know who the buyer is.
Okay.
Simple, but honestly, that's where most people stall. But you have to know where the buyer is. Yep. You have to be able to move somebody from curious to paid client. And that's a marketing strategy. To be creating impact, you have to have an offer that people value. And you have to know why they would say yes to you, which is the sales component. And without those, you can't get to 4 and 5. And 4 is influence. And that's of self. That's like leadership of self, of others, and of your clients. And if this is a business, and it doesn't matter whether it's for profit or not for profit, we have to create income, clear income, net profit, so that we can have the lifestyles we want to be the leaders of the change we want. And so when I tell people business is simpler than you're making it, think about these 5 foundations. It doesn't matter whether you're a solopreneur or you're the biggest company on the planet. These things are the same building blocks. And I realized so many people didn't know that, see that, or be able to apply that. I realized we have to start shining the light on the conversation where simplicity is the focus, because simplicity is what we connect to, human to human. It's also what we can live in and we can duplicate.
I love that. Can you say those 5 again?
I sure can. So the first piece is, who is the buyer?
Okay.
The second piece, I call it marketing message, but it's moving somebody in marketing strategy.
Okay.
The third piece is creating an offer that's valued and creates results.
Mm.
The fourth is influence, and that's a leadership component. And the fifth one is profit, impact.
Yeah.
And so for me, the whole philosophy was people weren't educated, maybe knowledgeable, but simplicity is the key.
Mm-hmm.
We are simple. We need to relate to simple concepts. And if you're really great at something, you know it when you can simplify it.
That reminds me of the quote I heard. I think it was Justice Oliver Wendell Holmes. There was a quote I read decades ago that I've never forgotten. It said, "I wouldn't give a fig for simplicity on this side of complexity, but I'd give my life for simplicity on the other side of complexity." And
Yes.
or it's like the story, I think it was Eleanor Roosevelt who said, "I'm sorry, I should have written a shorter letter, but I didn't have time." You know,
Yes.
or the other one that I think about is in the speaking industry, people would ask your fee, and your fee for a keynote was higher than your fee for a workshop. And they'd say, well, a keynote, it's only 45 minutes, the workshop's 3 hours. And I say, it's infinitely harder to do the 45 minutes than it is the 3 hours, because in the 3 hours, if I make a mistake, I can recover. They might not relate to one thing they'll say, but they can relate to another thing I say. But in a keynote, I can't make any mistakes. I mean, if that first thing out of my mouth isn't going to grab them. So it's just such wisdom. It is such wisdom. And so many entrepreneurs end up with things so complicated. They actually just have a job.
Yeah, and there's a whole unfortunate industry, which I am bucking the trend of, that is there to design you to think it's complex, which isn't very great from an integrity point of view. It's why I have such a big challenge with it, which is why I said I never set out to mentor, and I tell people that really candidly. I set out to be a great entrepreneur and a great business person, and because that was my goal line, I kept being invited to mentor, and I said, I don't know how I feel about that, truthfully, because my goal wasn't to do that. And yet it was through good collaborations, good conversations with other people, and said, you have a skill to serve here. It's so not innate, but it's been curated for so long to you. It's like breathing. And I said, I want people's business to feel like oxygen. And from the sense of it is non-negotiable. I love it. I create impact. I feel lit up by this because this is a choice. The elegantly simple thing is, you chose this lane. Let's make sure it supports you and the ripples you want to create.
I love that. The ripples. That's you're such a visual speaker. You create visuals. So Permanent Beauty says, so complex what I try to do is walk through doors God allows. Yeah. And sometimes we can overcomplicate things that we miss those doors. Right.
Very true. And there's a great comment to that, which I always, we can get caught up in running the 12 steps. One of the things I was challenged with yesterday by my mentor, so I walk my talk, I work with mentors. She said to me, stop worrying about the shots you haven't taken. Focus on taking the shot. And that was the moment of you're adding complexity about the 12 steps, 24 steps, 2 miles you've already foreseen. Yeah. All you're asked to do right now is take the one shot, and in this case, my belief is leave the rest to God. So focus on what actions you can take. And that in itself is just the living embodiment of simplicity, which is do one thing.
Yeah, do one thing.
And it's also related, I think, to do what you were created to do. I think that is just so one of the values of Productive Environment Institute is together we are better, because we so often try to do things that we shouldn't be doing, that we're not skilled at doing. And then as a result, as an entrepreneur, you get overwhelmed and you're not blessing your clients in the same way either.
Yeah. And so it's so funny, Christine, that you said that about taking the shots, because I literally 2 hours ago had a conversation with someone, and I said, and I shared a quote that I had heard that was, you will always miss 100% of the shots you don't take.
Yes, the Wayne Gretzky quote. And it's true. And that's the point of, are you passing or are you shooting? And it's not to say that collaboration doesn't require both. Being a great team member, a great humanitarian doesn't require both. Mm-hmm. However, there's a real truth to I think rising consciousness, which is, what do you want? And that's a hard question. A lot of people I know get challenged. We just spent the weekend with my parents, and I was sitting and having a 4-hour lunch, as you do with your bestie, solving all of the world's problems. And we have often challenged each other. It's to the question, what do you want? And that's a very simple question that we don't often spend a lot of time in. And yet, you know the answer. Mm-hmm. It's hard to articulate the answer. That's true. It's a different question.
So I really think I want to ask you about that, Chris. Do you think, because there are people that say they don't know what they want, and one of the things that we've done and that I've seen with helping people clear the clutter is, and even physical clutter, digital clutter, or the mental clutter that says I'm too old to do that, or I'm not educated enough to do that, or whatever. So you said you know what you want. Do you think everyone does? Or it seems to me that there have been people that haven't really allowed themselves to think about what they want. And they're so overwhelmed with all the things in their life that they haven't been given space to even think about what it is they want.
I think there's a couple of different words in there, and they're very accurately descriptive. Do I think you know what you want? Yes. I think you're God-given it from the time of birth is set in the universe. I think that's true. I think there's a lot of conditioning that strips us away from how do we play? How are we allowed to play? There's conditioning that happens throughout every stage of your life. And there's a time and place when you say, yes, I haven't allowed myself to pause. It doesn't mean I don't know. It means I haven't allowed myself that time. And the second thing is, the bigger reason we often avoid that question is because then we're starting to go exactly into that. I need to figure out the 12 steps to how to do that. And said, no, that's actually an active choice too. What I think you get to choose is, do I ask the question, what do I do with that knowledge? What steps might I take to start walking it? But those are all very different steps. And if you stay in the present step you're in, everything is possible. And the bigger question we often ask ourselves is, what will I do with that knowledge? That's a bigger, the whole existential thing. What will I do if I have to whisper it? Not in the case of business. For me, a lot of people do come in and say, who am I to dream so big? Or I don't know if I've got the time to do that. And that might be an age thing. It might be what my other commitments might be. And often I simply will hold the space, especially in the early days when we're trying to figure out if we're even a compatible relationship to be guiding each other, to ask the question. You might whisper it to me. The question will be, if you hire me, do you want to do something with that?
Mm-hmm. Do you have do your clients come to you? It's kind of a similar question as Barbara, but another angle. Do they come to you as a business owner, knowing they want to be a business owner, or maybe even want to be a coach, but not know exactly which direction to go? Or are they coming to you knowing clearly, I was born to do this, I want to do this, or I have an interest in this, should I do this? How are they coming to you?
They're often coming to me with both sets of realities, because some of them have come to that I've already been in business, but that business no longer serves me. And I want to create a new identity and in a new business, in a new vehicle, perhaps. Okay. The other thing, people will come to me saying, I want to create something, but I don't really know what it looks like. Mm-hmm. And the bigger challenge is because they said, you've asked me questions and just maybe through hearing a conversation like this, they said, you ask questions I can't answer yet. Mm. And I said, well, I'm not here to answer them. You are here to answer them. I'm here to help ask some good questions and to help hold the space, which is the simplest question to ask. Sounds good. Is it true? And so it's a bit like peeling an onion, because we don't, people think that clarity is a destination. Like, I'm going to sit and put an appointment in my calendar, and at Tuesday at 2:00, I'm going to go to Starbucks, and I'm going to spend some time thinking, what do I want in life? And I'm going to have this answer. It's going to just be really momentarily divine and quick. If that happens, awesome. But you're not really likely to have that as the majority. So I say my business is called Clear Acceleration. I said, we get clear and we start accelerating, but through movement, we honestly start to evolve that clarity.
Yes, I love that.
It grows. We start to go, well, this decision leads to this opportunity. This opportunity creates this feeling, response. And I said, listen, does that sit with you? Because I am not here to tell you the lane. I am also not here to say it's right or wrong. I'm saying, how do I support you in figuring out what lights you and feels like oxygen?
Yeah, that's amazing. I'm sitting here thinking, because we, as Productive Environment Institute, we have two groups of people that we work with. So we help organizees, which are probably some of your clients too, like people in business, and they're overwhelmed. They're coming to us to become organized or to get organized for their business. And the other side is organizers. So people who resonate with the idea of helping other people get organized. Like they were the ones in their family that always organized everybody, or in their whatever job they had, they always were the ones putting things in order. I mean, that was me. And so we have people come, we've met people who say, I want to be a coach. And they think that the only thing is a life coach or a business coach. And so when they start realizing that, wow, they could actually have a specific niche or a specific angle outside of those two big pots, you see the look, the excitement on their face. I mean, I had that when I realized that this was an industry, that it was something that did light me up. You just said it perfectly. And we can tell when we talk to people if they're a fit, if they'll fit, or vibe with us, is like what I like to say, or not. If they light up and they're like, I love that, then and they may not have ever even thought that this was an opportunity or an option for them.
Well, that's been the theme of the whole idea of becoming a certified productive environment specialist. It's like people, you mean I could get paid for doing that? And many of them were people who were in the corporate world who were very frustrated by the fact that they saw what disorganization was costing the company, but they weren't empowered to do anything about it, and often didn't like the politics. And then in some cases got laid off. Well, when they got laid off, it's like, wow. In some cases they got some money. So it's like, okay, I've got some money. This is perfect, because in 90 days, I can be up and running doing what I've wanted to do all my life, but wasn't given the authority to do. And
100%, because I always said, if you can see an opportunity, and that's sometimes the biggest thing, is creating space for people to say, I didn't even know this existed. Right. And I said, but it exists in your head. So a lot of the conversations before I have, engage in a client relationship, I said, we're exploring, what could it look like? Like, just be brainstorming with me. I'm a thinking partner at the end of the day. I'm in your corner. I'm your right-hand person to help you think and gain certainty in the direction you want to go, whatever that direction looks like. But the big question is, I don't even know how to get there. So that's a different question. Yeah. The question is, can you see it? Because if you can see it, then the question is, it is possible. It's just the way the universe works. It's possible. So the question that follows is, what decisions move us towards it? And what decisions move us away from it? And that's an active choice and some awareness that we can build a muscle around. But the greatest fun thing about life is, if you can see it, you can create it.
Without a vision, the people perish.
100%.
So your questions are uncovering, helping your clients uncover that vision, and then supporting them, which is so, I think one of the biggest mistakes that I made in the beginning of it as being an entrepreneur 46 years ago was not being willing to ask for help, because I was embarrassed. I was embarrassed that I didn't know it, or I was afraid I would look stupid. I was afraid that people wouldn't want to spend time with me. I mean, why would you want to? I haven't done anything. Why would you want to spend time with me? And one of the things about getting older is to see there are people in the world like you who have tons of experience, and you can't get that knowledge anywhere else. You can only get it from the wisdom of people who have been there and done it. And asking them will change everything for you. It will be, and it makes you, one of the things I often say in speeches is, great leaders create great cultures. And what you're doing is creating a culture. You're attacking something in our culture that has not worked well. And you're being an interrupter and saying, let's look at this differently. And I see that your company looks at it up here at this really high level, and ours is like, okay, now is the nitty gritty, because your ability to accomplish any task or goal is directly related to your ability to find what you need when you need it.
Exactly.
And if you're buried in hundreds of thousands of emails and piles of paper and things like that, you're not going to get any of that. So we complement each other so well. And when people begin to get rid of the piles, that's when those sparks of, oh, I could do that, which was literally buried in the piles. And when they unleash them, and then you can ask the question. So
it gives you breathing space.
Yeah.
You know, I always say to people that some of the biggest challenges, you said, you asked me, do you know what you want? I said, yes. The challenge is you can't reconcile in your brain the distance between where you are and where you see. And that's sometimes, if a lot of people struggle with that. They're linear thinkers. They're like, I just can't see the way through. And sometimes the biggest challenge I observe is, and the reason why complexity is so easily sold to you is, well, it's going to have to be hard, and it's going to be this very great journey. And the biggest question nobody ever stops to ask, I'm going to say not nobody, but I ask, is, well, where are you starting? And that's the strategy piece. And I always say to people, you've got 4 fundamental questions we're asking. Who are you? What do you stand for? Why do you want to play there? Which is, why do you want to choose this possibility? And how will you win there? And I mean win for the collective, not just win for yourself. And so if we can start to ask those questions and get clarity around that, we then find this beautiful opening, which is, now we have a starting point, and we're going to need some tactics to get there. And that's where collaboration, saying, yes, you're going to need a system. You're going to need to give yourself space by doing less so you can breathe and say with certainty, that's my next step. And one step, not the 20, but I said, that's okay. I hold the 20 because I know what they are. Yeah. I'm inviting you to take the 1. And, I did spend all of my life in the world of corporate. And I said, I didn't set out to say I'm going to one day mentor other people. But what I also know, for me, was all of those daggers, all of the battles won, all of the humbling moments when I fell hard. I now have this opportunity to provide them in services that said, you don't have to. Doesn't mean we won't make mistakes. We won't still find icebergs in the fields.
Yeah.
It will happen. But you know what's really, really comforting is I will hold your hand and I will be with you. And I can pretty sure my confidence, we can figure this out, because it's not the worst one I've ever encountered. At the same time, also go, how fascinating. That's where we are. Okay, well, the only way through is to go back to clarity and take one step.
Yeah. Yeah. One step. Barbara calls that the next action factor. Not the next, like you said, not exactly like you said, not the next 20 actions or the next 10 steps. What's the next action? And that just block everything out and do the next action. And that can propel you forward when you're stuck.
Well, I love what Barbara said is it's also then saying what's working, right? So once you build and you peel back the clutter, the decisions that you haven't taken, all of the paperwork that says, I just don't know what to do. You have this beautiful gift of the 80-20 principle. And my philosophy in how do you grow a business successfully is by 80-20. It played to this whole idea. What's 80% result that takes 20% and vice versa?
Yeah.
Why don't you stop doing all the things that aren't leading you productively to the step? And the moment you take off 80% of noise, distraction, complexity, delayed decision-making, guess what? You actually have time and hopefully the courage to say, now what do I want to do?
And I think 2 things come to my mind. One, you said courage. And I think, that's really, especially if you've tried things and they haven't worked, or you've paid a lot of money for coaching programs. Gosh, I've paid thousands of dollars for coaching programs that didn't get me where I wanted to go. I mean, they just didn't. But I'm also reminded, I saw a quote of a marketing book in the 1930s. It says, find out what people like and do more of it, and find out what they don't and stop. It's like,
Let's talk about
still a golden nugget today.
it's true, isn't it? It's like,
yeah,
it's elegantly simple.
Elegantly simple. And the truth also is, and sometimes, you know, when you said this, you shared it from your own personal story. Who am I to go and change things? Like, who am I when I don't know what I'm doing? Who am I when I don't have the expertise? And, you know, so much of that is a feeling all of us can relate to.
Yeah.
And what's the flip side of who am I? Well, I'm the one with the idea. I'm the one with the idea. And the great thing is 8 billion people on the planet. There's got to be, by mathematical odds, somebody else who sees that idea too, and will support you. And sometimes the biggest thing in journey in business, and we, you know, you and I've had the opportunity to collaborate and play together, is when you find other like-minded people, you've got to realize you've got to find the room. Business growth, there is a buyer for everything out there. And the key is finding the room, and the key is finding, who do I feel in alignment with? Who does I feel seen by, and who do I see? And how amazing can we get if we join forces?
Amen.
That ties in with when we're doing certified productive environment specialist training. One of the parts of it is figuring out who is your audience. And that is what people have the hardest time with, is because, well, getting organized applies to everybody personally and professionally. Yes, that's true. But everybody is not your market. I mean, that's a recipe for burnout and bankruptcy. And it really is. You described it beautifully. It is a matter of figuring out where is your room and where do you want to be. I think about a number of years ago, we had someone who had been laid off from, she was a records manager in corporate world and been laid off, and decided, she became one of our consultants, and she bought a shredding truck, and it was purple. And she was going to have this shredding service that she was going to take to small businesses and then help them go digitally. And it was a brilliant business idea. It really, really would have worked. But she kept jumping and doing other things, you know, seeing bright, shiny objects and not staying. And then one day she came to me and she said, okay, I'm going to market to small lawyers, you know, to solo practice. And I said to her, do you like hanging out with lawyers? And I'll never forget the look on her face. You know, it was like,
wasn't a heck yes.
And I said, you know, so you don't go where the money is, you go where your heart is. And when you go where your heart is, then it's not difficult.
That's right. This business, and that's sometimes the biggest reminder, as my clients' businesses evolve, one of the biggest reminders is, remember, this business is to facilitate the life you want. So you do get to choose who you play with. You do, you know, recognize that sometimes the big challenge in the growth phase is you're spending time in the room of the enlightened and not in the space of where your next buyer is. But you've got to recognize, to that really vintage 1930s advice, you've got to recognize, find out what they want, where they are, and offer it to them. But you get to choose that intersection point. And that's the funnest bit of what I do with my clients is, what is your intersection point? Where do you want to go?
I love it. I'm looking at some notes from you, and one of the things you said, you talked about how to stay out. One of the things you teach is how to stay out of marketing overwhelm. Can you talk about that?
I can, because it comes back to that 80-20 principle. I always tell people there's a million tactics to create a connection with a potential buyer. I'm not advocating at all you do 100 million things. I'm going to say pick one, maybe two. And if you've been in the business like me for a lot of years, I sometimes say 2.5. Like, I keep it very simple so that I can get really good and known for that choice. So that when I say, and it came down to a good conversation I had many years ago when someone says, what grows your business? And I said, I know people didn't get out of bed today thinking they would hire me. And I know that, I'm aware of that, but there's going to be something that they heard, because I was speaking, that is going to say, tell me more. And so I thought, do I need to learn SEO? Do I need to learn to write websites? Could I blog? Yes. Could I go network? Yes. And I have a resource. It's called 25 Ways to Find an Audience of Buyers. There are 25 strategies that are working right now in the marketplace. You can download it. It's a free resource. But I'm not saying do 25. I'm saying go and sit with them to find one that you want to do. And to me, it was, I will be speaking to grow my business, because speaking leads people through curiosity. And that immediately meant I didn't do 90% of the other available options. So to stay out of marketing overwhelm, it's don't get caught on the tactics, find your strategy first, and then pick the lane of one tactic. And so that's how I'm going to grow my business and stay in that lane. And to the point of the purple truck, which I also think was a great business idea, is if you'd stayed in the purple truck and you'd found how to make that purple truck work, you would have probably a worldwide franchise of purple trucks.
Yeah, that literally was a possibility. It was a vision that I could have seen as just being really, really awesome. And speaking, you mentioned speaking. That's how the organizing industry. I started it. No one heard of organizing, and I just went to church groups and parent-teacher associations and started giving speeches on 10 ways to organize your files. And that was how people said, "Tell me more." And that's how this industry grew.
Yeah, it can be that simple. But when you do embrace that 80-20 in terms of what do you do, it's this incredibly powerful decision-making tool, because you get to check against your strategy, which says, does this move me forward? Yes, move forward, green light. Does it not? Red light, I say no. And it really helps you then avoid the clutter of decisions you don't take, because you suddenly say, I just have space now to focus on doing one thing and learning to do one thing really well. And the timeline, the condensing of the runway accelerates, which is why if you get clear, you'll accelerate. It's just the way it works.
Right.
I love it. I love it. So, Christine, I have another question for you, but before we do that, we want to share your site. So, Christine Campbell Rapin, you wanted to share. You had some things going on.
I do.
Let me see if I can do it. I'm not sure if Eds is able to. Let's see here. Share screen. Give me one sec, guys. There we go. Okay. Gorgeous.
Awesome job. Awesome job. Well done. Well done on the tech side. I appreciate that. So, if you've listened to this today and said, I need more of the straight talk, I need more of what is possible, and then how do I get there? I want to invite you to come discover what it is that I do, because you will find on here great resources. Like the first thing I said is going to be a resource. How do you find people that might want what you need and how do you do that? And I'm also going to tell, I'm running several events in the next couple of weeks that will talk about how do you attract and identify your buyer, and how do you serve at the highest level so that you create a business that feels like oxygen. And these are free resources. They're going to help provide tools. And my invitation with you is, don't just have the knowledge in your pocket, apply the knowledge. And if you need support, that's exactly what we can do, because a great idea is a beautiful place to start. Take one more step and apply it. Go make some big impact.
Yeah, we are. I love that. I mean, we are not short on ideas, and people are not short. A lot of people are not short on ideas. It's that taking that action. It's taking that action and wanting to, knowing where to start and what to do. So that's where reaching out and getting help. So I think you've got some great resources on your site. And I thought I did a good job and had shared your site, but actually Ed's beat me to it. So that's her sharing the screen.
To talk about what is the action. This is the fascinating piece. It's not enough just to have the vision and be committed. If you're waiting for it to be convenient.
Oh, amen to that.
Okay. One of the biggest pulls to what, it's easy to we started the conversation. What if I don't know what I want? I said, is that really true? Or is it convenient to delay doing it? You're adding mental clutter. And I said, if you're waiting for life to be convenient, it's a very hard journey.
Yes. Yes.
Commitment comes really when you have accountability, which is why I said, don't just get the resource, get the support. My commitment in business, because I said I didn't take the decision lightly to mentor people. I didn't take the decision lightly to sit a shotgun on your dreams and say, let's find a way to make it happen. My commitment when I'm working with clients is I won't leave you behind.
Yeah.
I want to help ensure that you get the support, and there's different ways to do that. But I'm also going to challenge you. Your job is to light the fire. My job is to help be oxygen. We're a combined team. We're that collaboration is really key.
Yeah.
And with commitment and the vision and the embracing of simplicity, everything becomes possible. Everything.
Amen. I love it. And
right?
Yeah, to tag on to that, I was talking with a woman yesterday, and you know when you're talking to the right people, you're talking to the people who need what you have. It's all you can do to hold back and not try to solve their problem right away. You can. You can. And so I was talking with a woman yesterday, and she was great, but she had that fear and trepidation afterwards. Like she was, yes, this is what I need. I want to do this. I need your help. And then it was like, oh, but what if this? Well, what about this? Or what should I do this first? Or should I do that first? And so, part of my response to all those questions, because a lot of those questions are more fear, like there's a lot of times they're fear based. But my question to her was, if not now, when?
Mm-hmm.
And if not this, what? And by this, I mean us. I mean a team of people that are here to help you. So if not us, who or what? And so if you haven't already done it, then what's going to be different going forward without somebody helping you?
I love all those questions. And it leads to the thing. Remember when somebody is at the place of decision, at the place of the intersection, whatever intersection you chose, the number one thing, if they're even in the room, they've already stated to you is, I have confidence you know where you're going.
Yes.
And so the thing I always remind people when I'm in a conversation like that is absolutely those questions get asked and said, I understand the fear. I've stood where you are. Stand there pretty regularly. I'm a human being. But I will tell you can borrow my confidence, because if we do work together, I do know where we're going. And most importantly, I'm going to help you feel confident in your ability to do it.
Yes.
And that's where the big change happens. And that's what's fun. And if you're not in that place, be a good human being and don't make the offer.
Right.
Make it when you're sure
that
you've been guided and that you are offering in a really trusted, very valued way. You can borrow my confidence because I do know where we're going and I do know we can help you get there.
Yes. Amen.
It's a beautiful example of together we are better.
Yep, that's right. I'm going to put this back up for a minute, just in case anybody is on here that is a coach or been thinking about starting a business and you like to help people get organized and be more productive. Definitely check out becomeaspecialist.com. That is, you triggered a thought with me, Christine, because that is what we tell people. Because some people come in and say, well, I want to do this, but I don't have any credibility. I've never done it before. I don't have any testimonials. And we say, when you work with us, you're part of our team. You borrow ours. You borrow our confidence. Like you just said it beautifully, that when you're part of something or somebody working with you, you're partnering with them. They're not alone anymore. So,
and you add strength to each other. And that's a journey. I said, it's not something you put in your scheduled timer and said it's going to be a one-time conversation. We evolve. And that's the coolest bit about life. Like, I want life to be way more fun, way more playful, way more what's possible. I think I'm a hope bringer, and so were you both.
Yeah.
We can solve anything.
Yes.
We're creators.
I think one of the things that about getting older that is so exciting is that you see things that you thought went wrong or that just didn't work out right. And now it's like, oh, it actually worked out perfectly, because if that hadn't have happened, this wouldn't have happened. And so there's wisdom, in having been through the experience, and that's what you are offering entrepreneurs. So Christine, thank you so much for joining us today. Really appreciate your wisdom.
This was fun. For those of you watching this video either live or later on, and you're hanging out on YouTube, be sure to jump over and check out Christine's YouTube channel as well. We're going to put all Christine's contact information in the description. So if you're already on YouTube, jump over to her channel. And I love your videos, Christine. You have short and very to the point training videos on marketing. So you're just a wealth of resources. So thank you so much for joining us for this episode of PEPTalk, Productive Environment Podcast. We were thrilled to have you, and want to just have our audience reach out to you and learn more about you. So thank you, Christine.
Thank you, Christine. Bye-bye. Stay warm.
That's right.
Thank you.
Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.